It starts with a paper bag, a simple fold, a candle placed inside, a flag placed in the ground. One small act, quiet, almost invisible in the grand sweep of the world itself. But as the sun sets and the lights begin to glow, you realize something. That small acts can make a big impact. Over the course of the last month, we have visited several museums and memorials that honor the sacrifice of individuals and groups. This was all in preparation for Memorial Day, which we just celebrated last Monday. Today, we're capping off our Memorial May series with some stories to hopefully inspire you and give you some examples to discuss with your scouts. Because some people have a hard time believing that a small, singular act, such as folding a small paper bag, can have a big impact on the world. But what if that small act wasn't just folding a paper bag? What if it involved the swipe of a singular pencil that just changed a few names on a list? Do you think that this can have a big impact on the world? Picture this, it's Brussels and 1942. The world is at war and the Nazis occupy the city. A 20-year-old school teacher named Andrée Geulen stood at the front of her classroom. She looked out at her students. Some were smiling, and some were silent. But many wore something that she could not ignore, a yellow star stitched onto their coat. One by one, her students began to vanish, entire families taken in the night. No warning, no return. She could have stayed quiet, and most people did. But Andrée made a choice, a small, silent, yet dangerous choice. She began writing down the names of every Jewish child that she taught, their real names, and then began setting up their new Christian identities. She also forged papers and helped establish safe houses around the city. At school, she whispered instructions to her children before class. Don't go home today. Someone will meet you outside after school. Say nothing, just go. That was it. A single sentence, a lifeline if you will. Andrée helped smuggle children out of Brussels. She hid them in covens, farms, orphanages, anywhere that they would be safe. She had no army, no weapons, just a school teacher's instinct to protect her students, and the courage to stand up to a machine that was built on fear. Her weapon, a notebook. Her power, a decision to act. That's how you change the world. Not always with thunder, but sometimes with the quiet courage of a teacher who refuses to look away. Because of her, over 300 children survived. One woman, one ledger, hundreds of lives saved. A decade later, on the other side of the world, another child was fighting a different kind of battle. Not against soldiers, but against illness. And once again, the world was changed by people who simply said yes. This is a story of a little boy named Chris and how his wish changed the world. Phoenix, Arizona, 1980. Chris Greicius is a 7-year-old boy, full of energy, full of dreams, and fighting a battle no child should ever have to face: leukemia. But more than anything, Chris had one wish. He wanted to be a police officer. Not a superhero, not a movie star. He wanted to serve and protect his community, just like those police officers that he saw on TV. His kick-ass mom shared his dream with a local police officer named Tommy Austin. Now, Tommy could have said, you know, that's sweet, and moved on, but he didn't. Instead, he made a phone call, then he made another one, and then another one. Soon, a group of Arizona State Troopers came together and made this little boy's dream a reality. They made Chris an honorary police officer. They gave him a custom uniform. They let him ride in a police helicopter. He got to patrol the mean streets of Phoenix, Arizona, and even put his name on a speeding ticket. For one day, Chris wasn't a patient. He wasn't sick. He was exactly who he dreamed of becoming: Officer Chris Greicius. Chris passed away a few days later. And it's kind of hard to get to this part, but his wish and the kindness of those officers, it didn't end with him. Inspired by his joy, Chris's mother, along with Officer Austin and the others who helped, they created something new, a foundation to help grant wishes to children with critical illnesses. Today we know it as the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and since 1980 it has granted more than 500,000 wishes to kids all around the world. And it all began with one child, one dream, one act of compassion from a few people who said, "Hey, let's make this happen." The officers who granted Chris's wish never imagined that it would turn into a global phenomenon. They didn't do it for recognition, they did it because one child mattered, one life was worth the effort. And that's the power of small acts. They don't just change the moment, they often change the entire course of history. And over a century earlier, on a foggy street in London, another child did something simple and kind. And he didn't know it at the time, but that small act of kindness would help shape the lives of millions of kids in the future. London, 1909. It was the kind of night where the fog hangs low, thick, heavy, impossible to see more than a few steps ahead of you. A stranger from America wanders alone through the streets, and his name was William D. Boyce. He was an American businessman, and he was lost, cold, and frustrated in a foreign city. And then a voice cuts through the fog. "Excuse me, sir, do you need help?" A young boy steps forward, dressed in a cap and uniform, barely visible in the gray air. Boyce asked the young man for directions, and the boy did not hesitate. He led him through the alleyways and cobblestone turns. When they arrived, Boyce reached into his pocket for a coin to give the young man, but the boy refused and simply said, "A scout does not take a tip for doing a good turn, sir." And just like that, the boy vanished back into the fog. That one act, that tiny spark of kindness, it kind of haunted Boyce. Who was that boy? What was a scout? His curiosity led him to meet Lord Baden-Powell, founder of the scouting movement. And just months later, Boyce returned to America and founded the Boy Scouts of America in 1910. One boy, one moment, and one foggy night. And over a century of service, honor, and good turns followed. And while the fog has lifted, the mission remains. That nameless scout in the streets of London didn't change the world with a grand speech or a grand gesture. He simply saw someone in need and chose to help them. Now, generations later, that same quiet spirit resides in the hands of other scouts, folding a bag, placing a flag, or lighting a single flame in a cemetery. The visitors don't know the names of the scouts, but those scouts' actions still shine through the darkness. Because service doesn't need an audience, only a purpose. And now it's your turn. And you may not feel like you're changing the world. You may think that folding a bag and placing a candle inside is just a task on a checklist. But to someone, a grieving mother, a fellow scout, a soldier standing silently in the dark, that small act may just have a big impact. This weekend, scouts from all over Northern Virginia met at the Fredericksburg National Cemetery to serve as part of a memorial to the over 15,000 Union soldiers who are buried in that cemetery. Over the course of the last 5 months, scouts and other volunteers have folded over 17,000 small paper bags, all in preparation for the Fredericksburg National Cemetery Luminaria. Scouts place these small paper bags next to every single headstone as a small act of remembrance for those soldiers, most of whom are still unknown to this day. And while the flags and the bags present a striking visual during the day, it's when the sun sets that you see the true impact of those tiny folds. History is full of small acts that lead to big impacts. A name in a notebook, a wish fulfilled, a helping hand in the fog. You never know when that one good turn is going to change the course of history. So keep folding those bags, keep mentoring those scouts, and keep doing those good turns. If you like what we're doing here, do all that great YouTube stuff down below. But with that, I've been Matt with the Roaming Scouter, and I'll see you out there.